So we've talked before, and I probably asked you this, but when it comes to the clean material, is that that's just your sense of humor, or that was like a business decision?
That's what Jesus wants.
Yeah.
And Jesus gets what Jesus needs. No, well, some of it is, it's, I think comedians, and maybe I've answered this when I've asked before.
I'm sure.
Comedians just kind of do what they're gonna do,
Right,
and then they get credit or criticism for it. Like people are like, "Oh, you're being so outspoken." I'm like, "No, you should hang around her. She is.
That's
outspoken.
what she does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so some of it is I come from a small town, and that's not to say that I don't curse in everyday life, but if I'm talking about something like muffins, it's not necessarily to say fucking muffins are fucking awesome. Do you know what I mean? It's
I don't know, that was funny.
Also, like it's just like that's how I talk.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
But it's also, but you're from the
motherfucking
Northeast.
muffins.
I'm from
Yeah,
a small town in Indiana.
Right.
Like if I said fucking muffins where I grew up, people were like, "Are you okay?"
Well, this is the reason why I ask it, because have you ever thought about just like Breaking Bad? Like if you just came out one day and did a set and you were like, "What the fuck is up, Wisconsin?"
Oh,
and
you
just
know,
I've made my career. I'm good. I don't have to worry. And you go rogue one day.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, I think comedians, there is a little bit of a darker side to a comedian that's not necessarily for public consumption. But I do think that authenticity is so important. So if I was, and by the way, when I started, I used to curse. I used to smoke on stage.
Wow.
I really wanted to be Dave Attell.
Too. You did everything.
I had sex with your grandma. And but authenticity is kind of important, and I think an audience can sniff it out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it's,
but I mean, if you're
trying to be
right,
because you go to a comedy show, you go to Gotham, you're going to see whoever the hot comedian is. There's going to be these new comedians. They're like, oh, they're doing Mulaney, or oh, they're doing Chappelle.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, but they're finding their way.
But Mulaney is an interesting point because a guy who was a clean comedian and then went through something and then now
he's
his
a
act
drug
is
addict.
He's
a drug addict. He
not
divorced
clean
his
at all,
wife.
really.
No. But I mean, I think it's so funny because I feel like with his special was great, and there's like comedians are like, I wish I had a drug addiction. You know what I mean? Like there is something
what a great promotional vehicle that was.
Well, it's also the source of material.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
It's like 5 kids. Oh man, you got a lot of horror in your life. You can write material
when
on.
bad shit happens to you, do you think like?
Not necessarily,
because we always like it's gotten to an unhealthy point where actually it's healthy in some regards when a casual everyday bad thing happens, nothing truly bad. I'm like, okay, well, at least I can make this into a positive.
Yeah.
But then there are some times where I'm like, this is really bad, and I wish it was not happening. Yeah. But also, tomorrow's going to be pretty funny on the podcast.
Right. Yeah, no, there is like
sick.
how you process it, right?
Yeah.
And it is, I think it is kind of a form of therapy to make light of it, like, and to share, because everyone goes through those experiences. Maybe they don't have the teenager saying people don't like you, but like they have that at work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They have that, like, everyone at this job doesn't like you. It's so weird.
Did you was there a point in your career where, because I do also think sometimes the clean tag is a little bit used like almost condescending, right? Like in a negative way. But then also you reach a point where it's undeniable. Like, I mean, there's actually all the clean comics I know are, Nate, you, Jeff Foxworthy, Mulaney when he was, like, they were all like the best ones. Yeah. So it's funny that it kind of had this, this little stigma about it. But was there a point where you felt that, and then a point where everyone was kind of like, oh, never mind. Like, it doesn't matter what he's talking about. He's the GOAT. Like, he's got specials.
Well, I think it is. It's like all these adjectives, it just matters if it's funny
or not.
Do you know what I mean? And it is also one of the, but if I were a 17-year-old, I'm like, let's watch the clean comedian. You're like, I don't want to watch, I want to watch a funny comedian.
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like you also, like you wouldn't, you're like, if someone was like, this comedian's very well dressed, you're like, I don't care.
Right.
I want to know if they're funny.
Yeah. Well, that's why all those the ones I listed, it's almost like they are comedians who happen to be clean.
Yes,
I would never call them because they're just funny and
like Nate's funny, and it's like it's in a way it's a mischaracterization to describe him as clean.
Yeah.
Right.
And also it's funny when I used to hear clean, I would think like they're almost like up on a pedestal or that. Like Nate's best friend is Dan Soder, who is
they used
the
to
filthiest person alive.
Right. And Nate had his time where he was a dog too, and it's like when you realize that you can just you can be a regular person and tell regular jokes. But
speaking of that, you're going on the road with Seinfeld.
Yeah.
What do you and Seinfeld do on the road? Like we go to like
we make
shitty...
love.
Like, do you guys when we go and we're obviously
homeless people. They're not just gonna hang out in the hotel.
in different tax brackets and all that thing. But like when we go on our road to do our little cute little show, we'll go and we'll check out the local town. Like, do you and Seinfeld do that? Do you guys,
shot.
Well, some of it is
Seinfeld would rather die than do that.
some of it. I mean, he has at a level, and he's been famous for so long. Like when you walk around with him, like he is for 40 years. Had to, and he's in New York City where his show was set. So it's like he has to be like he has an efficiency of like, thank you very much, and he starts moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He
And
can't
so
linger.
like, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? In a
call your
very
sister.
polite kind of thing.
I
But
will
like
not hug you.
when I do, and mostly just in the city, like we might meet up at Gotham Comedy Club, and then we'll just hang out afterwards, and some of it is.
But like where in the club? You mean like reading
Yeah.
room? Okay. Yeah.
And just kind of talking comedy theories, and some of it is, but not like, he's such a comedy mind that he doesn't get into gossip. He doesn't get into some of the us giving each other shit, talking about sleeping with his grandma. He doesn't. He's more about like it's interesting the construction of this or that. It's like talking to Aristotle.
Yeah.
I
Right?
see that. But it's like it's like two like Brady and Manning talking about their quarterback mechanics. It's like
it is. It is. Some of its mechanics and also, it's exactly like that. It is like. Really interesting, and also because some of these hard truths about comedy are still there, and so like some of it he's been around. I mean, like I think he did Tonight Show in '78 or something like that.
Jerry, wow.
So it's like he's been around. Like he was a star in the '80s.
Yeah.
So like his perspective is, and he's like obviously he had the success of the TV show, but he's also. I mean, I think for a comedian to transcend a decade is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So it's like, but he's going on, decade upon decade upon decade that like, and you have to adjust, right? So it's like you guys probably when you started this, I mean, how much younger were you? 10 years younger?
Yeah.
So it's like you guys are different men than you were. And so like he's adjusting, and his stand-up is far more personal than what was needed in 1982. Like in 82, you didn't need to reveal anything. But now we're in this age where there is an exhibitionist. Like we're in this age of Kardashians where you have to like, the reality shows didn't exist in the 80s. So now, but like if people tell stand-up and they don't reveal something about themselves, people are not interested. So you have to reveal something. It's interesting.
Where do you